In Ask the Quetzal, we respond to Chacal B 1869, who asks if we can talk about the meaning of the snail among the Mayans and Mexicas. Each language has its own designation, but in Nahuatl the most common names are Tezistli or Atecocoli. This is a marine mollusk that uses its shell as a home and protection. Among pre-Hispanic groups, they use snails of all sizes, but they chose the largest ones for special purposes. Besides this eating them, one day, someone got the idea to make them into musical instruments by cutting off the tip and blowing into it, creating a wind instrument that is still used today. The sound depends on its size. The larger it is, the lower the sound, and the smaller it is, the higher the pitch. In those times, snails were objects of trade, decorative items, symbols of status and power. Today, we may seem very common to use, but we must remember that more than 500 years ago, they were brought from the sea by foot, either from the Gulf of Mexico or the Pacific. This made them expensive objects, and their use was restricted, as we will see now. Their presence has been found in many places. For example, in Teotihuacan, we see them in murals, carved in stone, or as offerings in the tunnel beneath the temple of the feathered serpent. Among the Mexicas, they have been found in offerings, and many are even carved or painted. There are even 5 monumental stone snails. Because they produce sound, they were used to call people, whether to public meetings, give important announcements, or send sound signals in battles or during important festivals and ceremonies. Because they were a means of communication, not just anyone could have a snail, let alone use it, to avoid false alarms or confusion. Now, let's talk about symbolism that goes beyond practical use. The number 0 among the Mayans was represented by a snail. Therefore, its symbol is used for mathematical and astronomical calculations. It also represents life and creation, as when Quetzalcoatl descended to the underworld to collect bones and create us. He tricked Mictlantecuhtli, and with the help of the bees and other insects, he was able to play a snail that was covered, deceiving the Lord of Mictlan. In this way, he was able to obtain the bones with which he created us. This myth represents the penetration of the air underworld through sound, which would ultimately gesture life and consequently crops in practical life. Obviously, the snail is linked to Quetzalcoatl and several of his representations, such as Xolotl and Tlahuizcalpantecuhtli. The good snail, besides this, represented mathematics, as it symbolizes the golden ratio, is also a symbol of Venus and its alignments with the Earth and the Sun. These alignments are represented in the 5-pointed snail, just like the 5-pointed star or the so-called quincunx that appears in various representations. The good snail of Quetzalcoatl is called Ejecacoscatl. Similarly with the snail, Quetzalcoatl creates the divine breath or Ijillotl, which is the form of Ejecatl, breathes life. Quetzalcoatl was created with the breath of a snail, and in turn he creates humanity with his own breath through the Tezistli. Quetzalcoatl's breath is also related to Tlaloc, as the wind he produces with it attracts rain clouds. This snail was played and is still played to bring rainwater. but the snail also appears in other deities, such as Tecusistecatl or Tesistecatl, who, in the Legend of the Suns, was the proud Wan, who ultimately settled for being the moon and thus became a woman. This deity has a snail as the Lady of the Marine Snail, a personification of the moon, goddess of tides, menstrual flow, and the renewal of life. This is natural, as the snail, as we said, is taken from the sea, and this is related to tides and the lunar cycles that generate them. In addition to life, the snail and its breath also represent sound, in our case, as humans, the word. Therefore, the glyph for the word is shaped like a snail. The snail is synonymous with the intelligence and wisdom of Quetzalcoatl. Therefore, it is not surprising that the battlements of the Calmecac in Tenochtitlan had snails, as we see here. The snail represents education that leads to wisdom. These are some of its most important symbolisms. And you know the drill. If you have questions, ask the Quetzal.